We're on the back nine here of our conversation of the Masters and relating that to investing and finance and retirement planning with Scott Osborn here on the Wealthy Pilots podcast. So let's get into the back nine.
We've got some turbulence up ahead.
Hey everybody, what's going on? Scott and I back again to finish up our conversation around golf, the month of April, Masters, all that good kind of stuff. We're right here at the end of around the end of the month here, Scott, when we're dropping this. So let's just finish our conversation. It's a lot of fun. You know, we got a couple of pokes and jokes about all the golf analogies, but that's all right. I mean, it's half the fun of doing things. So let's call this the back nine, like I said, and let's kind of look at the keys to victory, maybe, right? I think that's a good way to go.
One thing I got to come clean on real quick. I said last time I was going to get a hot dog at the turn, but if you ever golf with me, you know I'm getting an Uncrustable at the turn. That is my go-to snack at the turn. So,
they are pretty good. We used to take those out on the boat whenever my daughter was growing up. Yeah, I'm on a no carb, no sugar diet right now, so I couldn't do the hot dog or the Uncrustable if I wanted to.
That's so sad. Hey, so let's talk about keys to victory. You know, specifically in the Masters, they have this Amen corner, holes 11, 12, and 13. Three really, really tough holes that it's called Amen corner because when you get done,
you're praying,
you're saying, Amen, I made it through.
Yeah.
You know, to me, I kind of correlate this to like, hey, this is like age 50 and older in my career where we start to see people that will be taking too much risk and it burns them. Okay. And that's what, when you see these guys and that they're starting to make that turn into the back half of their career or the back half of that golf tournament.
Yeah.
And they're taking too much risk and they pay the price for it. And the big issue is, especially in the later rounds, they don't have time to make up the strokes that they just
lost. So you're tin cupping it. You're just dunking it in the water and you just blow the whole tournament by just sitting everyone in the water, right?
Exactly. And you know, from an investment standpoint though, you know, guys that are in that last, let's say 10 years of their career, right? Mm-hmm. That can be where again, it's plan dependent, but you want to be very intentional with how much risk you're willing to take because you're running out of time. And I think it actually kind of segues.
And it's a great time to also be saving because you're probably making the most. You're in the contribution catch-up phases, right?
For sure.
Over 50. So yeah, I mean, this could be a real make or break, especially if you do have your risk under control.
Well, and it's something else too, like kind of on the flip side of that, right? If it's important, I think, to like, let's say using the golf analogy again, let's say you're a couple strokes behind the leader. That's a good time where you maybe got to look over at your caddy or your financial advisor and say, hey, we got to make up some ground here. How can we take some smart risk to try to make up some ground? Knowing, you know, in the golf example, you're trying to beat somebody else. You're not trying to do that with your own investments, but hey, we can still look. If I'm in the last part of my career, I can say, hey, I'm going to have a government pension or, you know, for my military service or maybe VA benefits or my wife's got some savings or whatever the case is. And your target date fund is going to be dialing you back when maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe you should be trying to dial it up because, hey, even if I'm 55, I want to work all the way till I'm 65 because the job's flexible and I'm making the most money I've ever made. And I'm in the left seat now, all that stuff and all the things. And you can look at it and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to stay aggressive here because I don't need this money for 10 years anyways.
And maybe to your point, a target date funds where you don't even want to be, like you could just go into do something under more control, right? Get into a self-directed IRA or something and just have more options than that company sponsored, you know, target date.
Absolutely. And I think it kind of segues into, you know, one other, I thought statistic that's very interesting with this Masters tournament, right? If that's our theme here, is you know, there's 4 rounds in the golf tournament. The guy who's leading after round 3, you would think most frequently would win after round 4.
Yeah. After your third quarter in football game, if you're pretty far ahead, you may win it.
You're winning most of the games. Not the case. 50%. Only 50% of the guys leading after the third round actually win the tournament. And it's like, holy cow, you know, why are so many losing? It's not. I believe it's because of the pressure. When you look at, I mean, it's a lot of pressure on those guys coming into that fourth round or the fourth quarter, so to speak.
Definitely tin cupping it. Yep.
And I think you don't see that in other sports. If you compare that to basketball or football, the win percentages are much higher in those team sports. And this is where I love comparing golf to the investment side too, because, you know, a lot of times on the investment side, many of these guys are doing it themselves. And we see them coming here in the fourth quarter of their career and they're meeting with us because I think and a lot of times that's when they're like, I need this team approach because I'm feeling the pressure.
Yeah.
And when you see, recently a lot of the volatility we had from the tariffs and, the S&P 500's down, maybe I've been a strong DIY with either my target date fund or just owning the S&P 500 and I'm seeing all the volatility, you can crack under the pressure. And I could tell you the guys that are a little bit younger, I typically don't see get involved with trying to time the market, sit in cash on the sidelines because they're scared of the market. They're just buying and contributing. And
that's a great point because the pressure is going to be mounted too because you're working. If you're working, you're still adding money, so you still got a check coming in. And you've been doing well the DIY thing. And I think a lot of people do struggle with that. When you start to transition to retirement, this is your forever money. You don't want to go back to work, and you don't want to sacrifice your spouse either, right? Like if something happens, you're causing them issues too. So I can see that pressure analogy really, really adding up.
Well, I mean, and again, you get to 55, 60 years old. I mean, it's not like a lot of careers, like for me as a financial advisor, when we adopted 3 kids, I was joking with all my clients, like, well, I'm never retiring. I'll just work till I'm 75 instead of 65,
But you can.
Yeah, because I can. But, if you're in a career where you have a mandatory retirement date of 65, maybe legislation changes and they changed it to 67. But, it for now at 65, you can't say I'll just work a few years longer. And that's not an option. It's not your decision. And so that's another thing that just kind of adds that pressure. And the last thing you want to do is start making bad decisions because of the pressure. Either I'm not going to take any risk at all and I'm going to be super conservative. And then we start to see our portfolio grossly underperform what it should be doing. Or I don't feel like I have enough and I'm going to take too much risk because I need to make up lost time.
Right.
And then we get burned by that. And what we find is like, hey, neither one of those are probably going to give you the ideal outcomes that you're looking for. What's the plan? How much risk can we take? Let's take the amount of risk that the plan calls for, meaning when do you need the money? How much money are you going to need? And then looking at all the data and using all the equipment and tools and software, let's model it out and figure out how much risk do we need to take versus just trusting my gut instinct and feeling the pressure and say, I either need to take too much or take too little. That's probably one of the most common things we see with guys in the late stages of their career, taking too much risk or not taking enough.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I would assume that a lot of the winners of the Masters or any golf tournament is the guys who can consistently shoot over the entire round. Like, you're going to have those breakout rounds where somebody's just playing lights out and they set a new course record or something like that. But I would imagine that a lot of the winners are consistently just shooting low, just shooting a good low round each time. Yeah.
So like even that, like the data behind it, right? So most of the winners of the Masters, if you go look back, it's like 90% of them, I think, 90+% have shot under par 3 of the 4 rounds. And none of them had the like low round of the tournament. And so the guys,
they didn't have the statistical, oh, wow, it's the exciting round to watch somebody go wild and shoot amazing. It's the more boring, right? To kind of just be consistent, but consistency works.
Absolutely. And again, so much of it and we talked about this on our Front Nine episode too, but so much of it is that they are being consistently good. They're not shooting the best round time and time again. And again, your portfolio doesn't need to beat the market every single year. If you can beat the market when the market's down, that is going to be a better mathematical thing for you than if you're getting your butt kicked when the market is down.
Yeah.
Because losses hurt worse than wins do. And the same is true in golf. I mean, if you talk to any pro, they're going to tell you, don't compound your errors. If you hit a bad shot, play it safe, get it out of trouble, get it back in play. Don't take the hero. Don't try to be the hero. And don't compound your mistakes. And
I cannot help but go back to the Tin Cup movie because that final scene is so great, right? His caddy keeps saying, you've got the game in hand. Take the layup, right? Take the layup, put it on, putt for par, and win the tournament. And he's like, no, I can make this shot. And he plunks another one in the water, right? And it's just like a great meltdown. And it makes for fantastic cinematic, movie telling, but you don't want to do that with your portfolio.
Well, not the best investment philosophy. That's correct.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, speaking of being consistent, I mean, is it that kind of, I mean, yes, I know Tiger was spectacular at different times in his career, but wasn't he also like just really consistent?
I mean, his statistics are just amazing. When you look at like him in majors specifically, like
Right.
2 par, I think Phil Mickelson was second to him in this certain time frame, and he was still over par, and Tiger's like 168 under par or something. And so much of what made him great, to your point, was his consistency, his ability to be near the top week in, week out, and specifically even in the Masters. So he's coming back from an injury now or whatever, but he's had a lot here physically, but back in 2019, he had that major comeback where everybody thought he was done. And,
Okay.
he didn't shoot any lights out rounds then, but he had the least amount of bogeys that week. And so what does that mean? Bogeys 1 over par. So basically
Right.
he wasn't the best driver, didn't have the best short game, wasn't the best putter of the weekend. He made the least amount of mistakes. And again, the ability to consistently plan to avoid trouble,
Yeah.
consistently make good decisions by not having the best shot, having the best investment, but just avoiding the mistakes, staying out of the hazards, not making bad decisions, not engaging in bad behaviors, not worrying about what everyone else has got going on around them, right? I mean,
Yeah.
every time I see a playing partner do something, I needed to go do that, versus just playing my game, swinging my swing, as they'll say in the industry. It takes some discipline. It takes some patience. And
I think that's value.
You got to stick with it.
I think that's real. That's where a lot of value from financial professionals such as yourself and advisors come into play, right? Because often if we are left alone, as we talked about some DIY, we are going to start maybe being our own worst enemy and making some of those decisions. Having that sounding board, Scott, I'm freaking out here. Help me out, right? I'm not putting so good. help me get this under control, right? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think having that sounding board is a real valuable tool.
Well, I mean, I think the other part that's tough is the more successful you are at savings and investing, the harder it gets, because, a lot of times the market is working in percentages, but we see it all in dollars. Okay.
Yeah.
And so when I'm early in my career and my account's down 15%, I don't care that much because there's not that much in it. The dollars don't really matter, but what the market is doing is the same. Okay.
Right.
Now, when I'm near the end of my career and I got $2 million in my 401k and it's down 15% and I'm down $300,000 and I'm like, man, I used to make $300,000. I'm in a month, I'm down an entire year's salary.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, even though the market's doing what it always has done, my brain is like, ooh, this is scary. This is scary. And I absolutely understand that, but that's where you got to take a step back and again, go back to what does my plan call for? Am I playing with a full set of clubs? Am I avoiding the trouble? Am I playing my game? And am I tuning out the noise? Or am I worrying about what everyone else is going on and freaking out over the day to day? And generally speaking, if we can just stick with our plan and again, avoid losses through good investment methodology, take appropriate risks that we need to, that our plan calls for, we're going to get outcomes that are probably more desirable than chasing all these other things.
Well, that's our keys to victory this week here on the podcast. So shoot the least amount of bogeys when it comes to your financial strategy, and that'll certainly help and go a long way. And of course, you need a financial strategy. You have to have a plan. So if you need some help, please reach out to Scott or any qualified professional, but make sure you're checking in with a qualified professional about your situation. Scott would love to help. All you got to do if you want to get onto his calendar and have a conversation is check the show links below. We've got links to his website, retireairlines.com. That's retireairlines.com. Go check him out, send him a message, get onto the calendar. Don't forget to subscribe to us here on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, notification bell, and the little thumbs up. But we're also in audio form on Apple and Spotify and all that good stuff too. So Scott, thanks for hanging out, my friend. Always appreciate it. Enjoy watching golf, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, I feel like I just got to close this out with one thing. Again, this is not financial advice, but if you're not scoring what you need to score, you do probably need new irons. It has nothing to do with your swing. You don't need lessons. You need to go get new irons. So you're welcome.
Always the case. We'll see you next time here on the Wealthy Pilots Podcast with Scott Osborn. Thanks, folks.
Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action.